Without evidence, the president is claiming the attack against Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was staged as he mocks her. When asked about last night's assault, Trump called her a fraud and claimed that she probably sprayed herself. So, I guess perhaps unsurprising that Trump had that point of view. It was also echoed by Laura Loomer, who we know has a lot of influence in this White House. She says, "This is the most staged thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm calling for an immediate investigation into whether Ilhan Omar..."
Well, calling her a fraud, I think, is the nicest thing Donald Trump has ever said about Ilhan Omar, because he has been using her as a verbal punching bag for years now. But, you know,
what
to me,
really stands out is how quickly the discussion collapses into personal attacks and performative outrage. Instead of addressing substance, we get recycled talking points and inflammatory language designed to grab attention rather than explain anything. That pattern shows up again and again. Escalate the rhetoric, say something shocking, and let the chaos do the rest. And when figures like Laura Loomer enter the picture, it becomes even clearer. Calls for investigations come from the same people who thrive on spectacle, not accountability. Extreme statements, dehumanizing jokes, and crude imagery aren't accidents. They're deliberate tactics meant to keep supporters emotionally charged and permanently angry. What's frustrating isn't just how ugly the language gets, it's how predictable it all is. There's no policy depth here, no real concern for outcomes, just an endless loop of provocation meant to dominate headlines. It's politics as performance, not governance. And that's why moments like this matter, not because of who shouts the loudest, but because they reveal how far the conversation has drifted from anything resembling serious leadership.
But, you know, to me, what's ironic about this, and it's just, you know, it's wrong. And what's ironic about it, though, is when Donald Trump had an assassination attempt during the campaign, there were fringe conspiracy theorists who claimed that it had been staged to help his campaign and help him win the presidency. Something I think is insane. I saw no Democratic elected official amplify that. And what the President of the United States did was call Donald Trump. What the Vice President of the United States did was call Donald Trump, check in on him, and offer their solidarity and the investigation by the federal government. It would be nice if Donald Trump, instead of starting a conspiracy theory, would do the same, would call up Ilhan Omar on the day he's saying he wants to de-escalate things in Minneapolis, call her and say, hey, you know, we've had words, we may not be the best of friends, but what happened to you is wrong, and the federal government is going to investigate.
Is that too much to ask?
No, it's not too much to ask, though, but I don't think we're holding our breath, because Brother Trump is not going that way. For him, empathy, love, sensitivity to others, they actually are foes rather than intimate companions. But for me, the sad thing is that the American version of fascism will have white supremacy as its public face. So Trump didn't say just something about her. All the precious Somalians are garbage. Now, the German version of fascism had deep anti-Jewish hatred, its public face. Each society that degenerates into organized forms of greed and hatred and revenge have their own distinctive features. But in the United States, as we slide down the slope to more greed, more hatred, more revenge, and the rationalizations of it, then you can rest be assured that white supremacy is going to be at the center of it, but the corporate money and the military might will be at the back. That's why Martin King said what? If we don't come to terms with racism, poverty, materialism, and militarism, America's over. It's spiritually dead. That's Martin King before he was shot.
So, Scott,
that's a challenge.
Capitol Police says that threats against members of Congress and their families are up 58% from 2024.
It's terrible.
Why is Trump pouring fuel on the fire?
Look, he obviously doesn't
Shut up, Scott.
care for her, and she doesn't care for him, and I don't expect either of them to dial it down anytime soon. And we'll say this, I think anytime something like this happens, it's all of our responsibility to say that political violence and political intimidation is simply not acceptable. We can have debates, and and we're going to have that. And look, this is, you don't want this. You don't want people believing that they can get away with it. Now, this guy, I think, was arrested. That's a good thing. I'd like to learn more about him and learn more about what his motivations were. But
well, we do know that he said that Union soldiers ought to be compensated for liberating black people. So that already, that's a deeply white supremacist
So
sensibility,
we,
you know what
we
I mean?
do know
Can I
he's
just-
55 years old. He
Sorry.
has shared
I'm
cartoons
sorry.
criticizing Omar. He's a Trump fan. He has changed his profile photo to Trump, Erica Kirk, et cetera, shared anti-trans content, et cetera. So, I mean, this is a picture of somebody who is on the right, who is obviously also a little bit deranged, perhaps.
Yes. One other issue that most people don't think about much. Most of these elected officials have no security. There's virtually no security. We're used to seeing the president and high-ranking people, they have security. Members of Congress, local officials, most people don't have security, and they often are doing events in very unsecure locations. And so when things like this happen, you just have to remember these people, they're often out in the open, and all it takes is one crazy person.
I mean, and look, I think it's relevant. I heard Ilhan Omar talk about how Nancy Pelosi gave her Capitol Police security because of the threats against her, but also because she is targeted not just by random people online, but by the person who occupies the highest office in the land. So that's a very different level of negative attention that she's been getting, and so that's why she does have security in this instance.
Does she have Capitol Police there?
I don't know if those individuals were, but she said that at one point when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, she gave her Capitol Police security. Next for us, violent.
And this is where the conversation takes a turn that honestly caught me off guard. For once, Scott actually acknowledged something real. That reckless rhetoric, especially around trans people, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It travels, it lands, and sometimes it turns into harm. I won't pretend that erases years of enabling toxic narratives, but credit where it's due. That point was accurate. What's ironic is how rare that kind of clarity has become. For nearly a decade now, politics in this country has been fueled by language designed to provoke, escalate, and dehumanize. Since the mid-2010s, the volume has only gone up, not because it helps voters understand issues, but because outrage keeps people locked in. When public figures and media personalities repeatedly frame certain groups as threats or punchlines, it shouldn't surprise anyone when real-world consequences follow. You don't need to encourage violence directly for the effects to show up. Constant targeting, constant vilification, that's enough. And that's why moments like this stand out. Not because they fix anything overnight, but because they expose the contrast. One side thrives on escalation, the other momentarily recognizes the damage that escalation causes. I've never seen Scott push back like that before, and that alone made this clip worth sharing. Let me know what you think. Was this a genuine shift, or just a brief pause before business as usual? Drop your thoughts below, hit like if this breakdown helped, subscribe if you want more, and I'll catch you in the next one.